Check podcasts.
Welcome to Her Love of Sports, where we highlight professional women in the sports industry. My name is Katie Hamilton, and thank you so much for joining us. Our special guest today is part of the Canada Women's National Hockey Team. She's an Olympic gold medalist and captain of the PWHL's New York team, Victoria's very own Micah Zandee-Hart. Micah, thank you so much for joining us, and how are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm just happy to be home. Always happy to be back in Victoria.
And we're going to start right there because you are from Saanich, Brentwood area, and just everything you've accomplished. You're such a role model, someone I follow and follow your career. Just talk to me about how you got into hockey and from being in little Saanich.
Yeah, I mean, I have an older brother, Ben, who's 7 years older than me. And I pretty much wanted to do everything he did. So he was in minor hockey at Panorama, Peninsula Minor Hockey Association, and he was playing, and I saw him playing street hockey out in front of the house, and I just kind of started doing what he was doing. And as soon as I was kind of old enough, I asked my parents to get me out to like the free skates at Panorama. And once I was on the ice and out in front of our house playing, I just kind of fell in love with it and never really left it, which is kind of crazy to think about now.
Wow, that's amazing. And I came from a hockey family, but I never played hockey. When I was growing up, there was women's or girls hockey, but you always played on a boys team. There wasn't like a designated league for young girls on the island or kind of teams. What was your experience?
Yeah, there wasn't any. There was a couple other girls, I would say, around my age that were playing hockey at the time. One of my best friends, actually, I played like baseball with her growing up, but she never played hockey. And there was no like girls teams at the Panorama, and that was our closest rink. So naturally, I just played with the other guys my age. And then as I developed and kind of got older, I just stuck with that group, and I was able to keep playing with them. And the girls that I kind of started out playing with, one by one, kind of started dropping off. And then by the end of my career in Victoria, anyways, I ended up being the only girl. But it wasn't really planned, just kind of how it worked out.
So did I see in one of the photos that you had a C on your jersey for being one of the captains?
Yeah. Like I said, I played kind of with the same group of guys all growing up, and we had the same dads coaching us. And honestly, like anytime I talk to someone about that, they're like, wow, like you were the captain, you're the only girl on the team. And looking back at it now, when you're, 8 or 9 years old and you're the only girl on a team full of guys, young boys, getting the captaincy on your jersey is pretty much just because you listen and you're coachable. Like that was pretty much it, is that I listened to the coaches. I was maybe a bit more focused at times than some of the boys my age, and I think that's basically what got me into a captain's position at that young age. I don't think it was anything more than that, other than, the coaches just felt like I was maybe a bit more focused at times. But it was obviously cool to be a captain in a group full of boys, looking back at some of those photos.
Totally. Well, they're not going to give it to you just because to have the token girl have it, right? You have probably showed a little bit of leadership, as much as leadership as we have at that age, but leadership skills, listening, which is all kind of key in for coaching, right? That's kind of what you look at. It's not just skill. It's the ability, coachability, listening skills, all of that kind of adds in. But I think it's a great story. And I have one of my cousins who we've had on previously in the States, and she was captain of her boys team, and it was kind of a similar thing. And I just find it's great for young girls to look up to as well, and especially in a sport that's maybe male dominated in certain areas. And I'm not sure where Victoria is now with having girls leagues, or if it's similar to before with having kind of mixed leagues to an age. But
yeah, it's pretty similar. We just actually in 2020, I guess, or 2019 maybe, we launched our first ever all female hockey association. So Capital Region Female Hockey Association. That's the first time. I think it's the first on the island, actually, for an all-girls hockey association out of Perks. So that's pretty cool. There's still, obviously, we have a lot of different hockey associations in Victoria. So there's girls playing integrated and there's girls playing girls. And fortunately, girls have the option to do that now. And it's a personal thing, right? Some people, maybe it's not really a skill thing. It's a comfort thing or a social thing or whatever it may be. So it's good for young girls to have the option to do whichever they would like.
And did you play other sports growing up?
Yeah, I played pretty much everything. Like I played baseball, hockey, soccer, basketball, played softball as I got older, kind of at a young age, I just wanted to play sports. I didn't know hockey was going to be something that I played forever. I just wanted to compete, and that's kind of what my friends were doing, and pretty much anything I could do that got me outside or kind of playing a game per se, I was going to sign up for it. So that was pretty much my whole childhood, was playing all different sports, and my mom kind of rushing me from one thing to the next.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about it earlier. You went to Stellies. One of my best friends graduated from Stellies, actually. But what was kind of your next steps in that? You played at Panorama, which we talked about, Stellies for a little bit. What were your next steps?
Yeah. So, I went to school, like elementary school, middle school, played with the boys. And then obviously being a young girl, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to play with the boys all the way up. And it was a great opportunity for me here. I had a great group of guys, and I did really well, and I was able to develop. But it was always kind of in the back of my head that I was probably going to have to look at a different route to take than some of the boys that I was playing with. I wanted to play with other girls. They had to be out there. No one from Victoria had really done what I wanted to do, which was play for the national team yet. So my mom and I were kind of navigating this like a little bit blindly. But I got recruited to go play at a hockey academy in Penticton when I was in about grade 8. My mom felt like that was a little bit young to move away and live with a different family and kind of be in a whole new environment. So we waited until I was in grade 10. And then I ended up moving away and going to a hockey academy where I could play with other girls and just continue to get better. And ultimately the goal there was not necessarily the national team, but to get a scholarship and play in the NCAA.
Wow. Okay. When we get back from our break, we're going to talk about that transition in your next chapter with the national team.
Cool.
Welcome back. I'm here with Micah Zandee-Hart. And Micah, we just talked about you moving to Penticton in grade 10. And you mentioned it before, you didn't really have anyone to kind of follow the footsteps from being on Vancouver Island to trying to make the Canada national team and just kind of navigating that with your mom. And I believe you were the first athlete to be from Vancouver Island on the women's national team.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't know that until it happened. And someone was like, "Did you know you're the first?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool. I didn't know that, but yeah."
That's absolutely amazing. And you went on with Team Canada. You won the gold medal at the 2022 Beijing Olympics. So let's just talk about that whole journey, because it's so inspirational and such a role model. And we talked in the first part about how playing on the boys team and all of that, but to have someone like yourself to be like, here's the route that I took and look at what you've achieved is just truly inspirational and outstanding. So I want to hear all about it, all about your journey.
Yeah, it's again, I wanted to play for the national team ever since I watched the 2002 Olympics on TV. I watched us win gold, and I was like, wow, like look at that, like amazing group of ladies. Like they just grinded it out. They went to the Olympics where there's athletes from all over the world. Like this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be there at someday. So I knew where I wanted to get to. I had no idea how that happened. Luckily, when I went away to high school, my two coaches had played on the national team and gone NCAA and played at that level. Gina Kingsbury was an Olympian herself, so they kind of guided us through that and kind of told me, what they had done, and they helped me with the recruiting process in the NCAA schools and finding the right route for me, because that's part of it too. The route, I took one route, but every other woman from here that came after me has taken a different route, right? And everything evolves, and it's just based on the individual. So I'm lucky that I had them kind of guiding me and trying to find the best fit for me. And yeah, I ended up getting invited to like the U18 national camps, went to those as, one of very few from our province. And just kind of, I kept making the teams as I went up, which was kind of a shock every time. I always felt like a little out of place at those, just being from out here and most of our team being from Ontario and Quebec. But I just kind of kept getting invited back and just kept rolling with that. And on the other hand, I was also going to Cornell University and developing there and just trying to be the best I could possibly be. And hopefully one day get that call or that ask to try out for the big team, which was the Olympic team.
And that was for the 2022 Olympics?
The first time I actually got centralized for the Olympics was 2018.
Okay.
So I actually took a year off from Cornell, got invited as the youngest D to that centralization process where we all moved to Calgary, the top like 30 players. And then we train there, play games for 4 or 5 months. And then at the end of that 4 or 5 months, they pick their final roster. And I ended up being the last person left off of that roster. So
wow.
I didn't make it in 2018, which was tough at the time because that was my biggest dream. And I kind of thought it was over. I was young. I was like 19 or 20, I guess. And so from there, I just kind of regrouped and decided like, okay, yeah, it didn't happen, but like this is still what I want to do. I still want to try. I'm still young. I think I could be good enough one day. So kind of got back on the horse, as they say, and kept playing and developing, and then ended up making that dream reality in 2022.
Wow. And I remember watching the Olympics. It's one of my favorite, especially just seeing the women's national team. It's so exciting. Hockey, the rivalry with the U.S. And everyone that's coming. What was going through you when you guys won the gold medal at the Olympics? Do you visually remember it? Do you remember those feelings? What was it feeling like?
Yeah, it was obviously super nerve-wracking on the day. Any game against the U.S., you get a little bit more up for it because of the history and the rivalry. But that day, I think for me was just the accumulation of my whole life to that moment, and I just wanted to be the best I could possibly be and give us the best chance at winning. And we had a really, really good team in 2022. So honestly, I probably could have had a bad game that day, and we might have still won. But as a defenseman in the role I play, I just wanted to do the best that I could with what I was given. And that day, I felt like we were kind of firing on all cylinders, and our team just, I think, knew like from the drop of the puck that was going to be our game. And then once the final buzzer went, we were up a goal at that point, and I kind of tell people like it's not anything what you think it's going to be. Kind of, I felt like I was in the movie Inside Out. Like I was feeling like all the emotions at one time. Like you're crying, you're laughing, you're smiling. Like you're kind of sad at one point because you realize that it's like it's happened and it's over. But you haven't quite sunken into that mode yet because you're still celebrating. And then obviously you're getting reached out to by a bunch of people. So that's a bit overwhelming. And you're in a dressing room, or you're you're at an event with this group of 22 women that you've just worked so hard at together to get to that gold medal game. But even before that, you were all on these journeys like myself to get to that game itself. So it's a lot. It's like a heavy moment of emotion.
Exactly. And it's not like it's the Olympic tournament, so it's not like it's just one game or just a little bit of games. It's like there must be so much emotion going up from it. Nervousness, stress, excitement, all of it, being away from your country, which you're probably quite used to, but and then to have that moment, just truly spectacular. Okay, more from Micah when we come back from the break. Okay, back with Micah Zandee-Hart. Micah, PWHL, first season. There's just so much hype, so much excitement around women's hockey, and it seemed like they did it so well with marketing and just having the coverage, which we've seen that women's sports and hockey has lacked in previous years. And first season, not only are you a player, but you are the captain of New York. Wow, what an accomplishment. What was that first year like in this new professional women's hockey league?
Oh, honestly, it's been a whirlwind. Like we knew, when the CWHL folded in 2019 that this was in the works, and we had players like Kendall Coyne-Schofield and Brianne Jenner and Sarah Nurse and Hillary Knight. They were working behind the scenes with Billie Jean King and Lana Kloss to figure something out. But a lot of us players were just kind of like trust in the process, keep training, and something's gonna come. We didn't know when, so it was a lot of waiting and continuing to train. But when we kind of got those calls last spring that it's going to happen next year, I think all of us, it was, at first we were like, okay, yeah, we've heard that. Like we've been waiting for a while. But once it was actually in place, it was pretty surreal to start going through the process and have a draft and be talking, your agents talking to GMs. And it's like, most of us have never experienced this before. We've never been in like the professional space where this is our job. We've maybe been lucky enough to play for the national team. We've gone to university, but we've never been considered like employees for playing a sport that we love. So it was a whole new process for us, happening super fast. And I commend the league because it came together super quick. And I'm fortunate also to be on a member of the Players Association. So I'm on some of those calls, kind of figuring out between the union of players and the league. And, there's a lot of people at the league that have worked, 24-hour days, I think, to make sure that this looks good. And this is, as you said, it's marketed well, and that we're being treated how we feel we should be treated by professionals. So it was a lot of conversations, a lot of Zoom calls between players and staff to get this league going. But I think once we played that first game, and once we were all in our markets and everything, it was kind of just a sense of relief to know that we have this in place, and it's not just in place for now, it's in place for the future as well.
Well, I think that's so key too, right? Is the longevity of these leagues and these teams, and for the future generations, for something to look forward to and strive to, and have goals and whatnot. But the hype around it, we've seen women's sports really over the past few years kind of keep going up and up and up, a little bit more coverage. But for some reason, at least from my view, it looked like the PWHL, just the way that you guys kicked it off, the way that the coverage was, the excitement, the kind of getting to know the players, which I think is huge for building a new league, is building that. They did a great job with that. And then we've seen it with basketball, the WNBA, NCAA, now the women's soccer league that will be coming in. But the women's hockey, the PWHL, just kind of seems like they led this new excitement, if that makes sense. And it's so exciting for younger generations, crowds, massive crowds coming out, everything like that. Right now it's on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Would you hope that it would come to the West Coast? Because mine would be.
Of course. Yeah, I think I don't know if it'll happen in my time. For women's hockey to have 6 teams right now, I think that's the sweet spot. That's the perfect number. Every game's competitive. We have, a wide range of players. We're able to get this next draft class up onto the teams, but also still maintain a lot of our players. So I think that's our sweet spot, but definitely one day, whether I'm, on the playing side or maybe on the other side of things, definitely would love to see that expand to the West Coast, because we have so many young, talented players coming up now out of this province, like BC and also the West Coast of the US. Like, hockey's just growing and growing and growing. So that's definitely the hope.
Yeah. And when you're a captain of New York and you went to Cornell University, so what was that kind of the call, the transition, the going to New York and being a part of their inaugural squad?
Yeah, it was kind of, it all happened pretty fast. I actually had to have shoulder surgery last July, I guess, a year ago. And right kind of around that time, I'd heard that the league was going to be happening. So that was a bit hard for me to swallow, because I was like, okay, this league's happening. Every team's, signing their kind of 3 cornerstone players. And then the draft is happening. And I'm not in a really good position for teams to want me. Like, I'm getting surgery, and I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, it's a pretty successful surgery, but I didn't really know what that was going to look like for me. I just knew that I had to take care of that injury first and give myself a good chance. So I was kind of sitting at home doing my rehab, like, I don't really know how this is going to go. And then my agent called me and kind of said, hey, like, I just talked to New York's GM. And I was like, okay, great. Like, maybe they're interested in drafting me. And he was like, no, they want to sign you. Like, they want to sign you as one of their 3 players. And I couldn't really believe it at first. And then the next day I had a call with the GM, and he obviously said some really great things about me, but I think what stuck out the most was just his values and what he wanted to build in New York. Not just that, he wanted me on his team for now, but that he wanted me on his team for, 3 years, and kind of help build the culture and the, standard that we wanted to set there. So that meant a lot to me, and obviously his support in my rehab process, and knowing that I might be a little late coming back to the start of the season, that meant a lot as well. So I was living in Calgary at the time, and next thing I knew, it was like, okay, 2 months from now, I'm going to be packing up my place here and driving to New York, which is like a 5-day road trip. And that's going to be my kind of home base for most of the year now.
Wow, what a story. What a journey to kind of come over full circle back to New York. And we're going to ask some more questions, get to know you a little bit more.
Okay,
we'll be back
good.
at the break. Okay, Micah, thank you so much for joining us at Last Final Moments. Any athletes that you looked up to when you were growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I looked up to a lot of athletes for sure. I think when I was quite young, I got to go to a hockey camp in Saskatchewan. That's where most of my family's from. That Colleen's Historics ran, very small town Saskatchewan, and she was a defenseman on the national team at the time. Kind of played like similar game to me, just kind of a hard nosed defenseman. Really, really hard worker. So I met her. I got to see her medal, and I kind of worked with her for a week, and then I watched her on the national team and I kind of just always kept my eye on her and looked up to how she kind of carried herself. Other than that, I think one that always sticks out for pretty much every Canadian woman my age is Christine Sinclair on our soccer team, and just seeing how she really carried the weight of this sport in our country, and how she carries herself and how humble she is, and just kind of put her nose down and put the work in, and then gets to finish her career like winning gold in Tokyo is just crazy. So I always kind of followed her as well, and looked up to how she navigated the journey.
I love those. We definitely love Christine Sinclair here.
Yeah.
She's a great role model for Canadians, a fellow British Columbian like us.
Definitely. Yeah.
And any advice you would give to young athletes that are wanting to follow in the footsteps of you, also in a sport that is male dominated, and any advice you'd give to them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think there's lots of advice out there. I think one thing that just stuck with me my whole career was you get out what you put in. So, a lot of people have dreams or things they want to accomplish, but at the end of the day, you have to kind of put the work in every day, and you have to know, what your weaknesses are, and you have to be willing to put those hours in to get to that point. So I think it can be easy sometimes to say, like, write your dream on a piece of paper and it'll happen. But I can definitely tell you that it's going to take a lot of hard work. And if you find a way to like that hard work, and to like to practice, and to like to get better, and kind of be okay with not having the glory all the time, and just kind of fall in love with the process, then that's going to allow you to ultimately make that dream a reality and not get burnt out, and enjoy the process while you go along.
You heard it from Micah Zandee-Hart, Victoria's very own. It's been so great having you. You are such a role model to all. And I actually see your Olympic tattoo. Can we show it to the camera?
Yeah, that was
very nice.
That was a dream of mine. Always said if I went to the Olympics, that would be the first tattoo I ever got. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. Very special. But no, you're such a role model, so inspiring. I love following your journey, even for the past few years I have. And it's just been, truly inspiring to see where you've come from. Vancouver Island, Brentwood Bay. I mean, we don't see too many big names coming from there. We do, but to have someone like yourself is just truly tremendous. And for everyone, not just young girls, but for young boys, everyone, to have someone to look up to is just fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing your story on Her Love of Sports.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's awesome.